genetics something that you are born with?
The BMI cutoffs helps because at least that will make you alert.
So PCOS can lead to infertility.
When you juice a fruit, you actually concentrate that sugar.
I'm having a thyroid, then how often should I check my TSH and T3 and T4?
PCOS is considered now.
Welcome to Unscripted with Kena Shah, powered by Shankus Season 1. आज के एपिसोड पे हम बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक के बारे में बात करने वाले हैं क्योंकि ये टॉपिक हर घर का एक रियलिटी बन गया है, जैसे थायराइड, पीसीओएस, ओबेसिटी एंड हार्मोनल इम्बैलेंस जैसे प्रॉब्लम्स। सो आज हमारे साथ है अहमदाबाद की वन ऑफ द मोस्ट ट्रस्टेड एंड्रोक्रिनोलॉजिस्ट डॉक्टर रुचा मेहता, जिन्होंने अपने 10 साल के करियर के टेन्योर में हजारों पेशेंट्स की लाइफ ट्रांसफॉर्म की है। प्लीज वेलकम डॉक्टर रुचा मेहता। Hi, welcome to the show.
How are you? Thank you so much.
Please have a seat. So, Dr. Rucha, I'm very curious about knowing. So, was there any defining moment, in your life or your career where you decided that this is the space you really want to get into?
So, Ken, I'm glad you're asking me that question because it really, very often we forget why we are doing what we are doing. So I think it gives me some time to reflect. So all my life, I was always this go-getter, very type A personality, as many of us are. And I always thought I'll be a cardiologist, and all my friends and family thought the same.
Okay.
But then I realized at some point in my career, when I was doing my MD medicine in the US, along came this endocrinologist, and endocrinology was hardly a specialty when I was a medical student in India.
Okay.
It was a growing, even now we are a smaller group compared to the other specialties. And she was this really amazing intellectual person who had a huge influence on me. And she said, why should we treat cardiac disease when we can prevent it?
That's a very
And
nice
at the same time, I realized I had put on some weight during my medical school years. In my family, my parents both have diabetes. All my cousins have diabetes. I had young uncles and aunts in their 30s who were getting diabetes. And then, of course, we know heart attacks. So I thought, chalo, we cannot change our parents, but we can change ourselves, and we need to start with ourselves. And that's when I think I really started veering towards endocrinology, and I was fascinated by the hormones, how hormones impact everything. If you're happy, it's hormones. If you're sad, it's hormones. If you're growing, it's hormones. If you're losing weight, gaining weight. So hormones impact such a huge variety of things. And I thought I had a chance to make a real difference without doing interventions. So as we always say, yes, good doctors might treat disease, but the best doctors prevent disease. So that's where maybe this comes from. And it truly has become, as you said, an emotion, a passion for me to help not just the patients we are seeing, but for the example, this podcast we are doing today, I hope it has a lasting impact on many people, that yes, you can make changes at any stage, at any age in your life. So
I'm sure with this podcast and your knowledge and your experience, we are going to have some valuable insights, for the listeners.
You. I hope so too, yes.
Yeah. So before starting, going further, I would like to discuss firstly on the obesity part, because it's one of the most talked topics, when it comes to, and especially in India, I feel.
So absolutely, obesity is increasing, not just in India, but worldwide. And India is in the top 5 countries now with obesity or overweight. Also, India is a land of paradoxes. I think it's important to say that because we have not just the malnourished, but now also the obese or overweight. Why it's happening? Most likely due to the sedentary lifestyle, overconsumption of ultra-processed and very high-calorie foods. Access to foods. Children can now order easily online, and they are doing this all the time. And then screen addiction. We hardly get out and play. So this is probably what is driving the obesity epidemic. Along with that, a lot of hormonal issues are increasing nowadays, maybe because of several endocrine disrupting chemicals in the air we breathe, in the food we eat, the plastics, everything. So there is a lot of reasons why we are trying to figure out exactly. But yes, obesity is increasing, and we need to tackle it because it leads to many important and metabolic conditions like diabetes, heart disease, blood pressure, cholesterol,
So is it like because of overweight is always because of overeating, or are there any hidden factors that we are just ignoring?
So of course, yes, one of the most important reasons, unfortunately, sad to say, is what I call the hand-mouth syndrome, is that we eat too much. So one of the most important reasons is that. But why do we eat so much? Could be driven by many things. So there could be underlying genetic factors. There are some diseases which lead to this. There are other hormonal disorders such as high cortisol, thyroid disorders, which can lead to obesity also. There are certain steroids being given, medications given for other reasons that can lead to obesity. Now, if you have knee joint problems or something and you may not exercise, that can lead to obesity. So many things do exist, but the most common reason, I would say, in 80 to 90% of the cases, as we very well know, we don't need any specialized testing. It's most likely due to overeating. So sorry to say
the most comfort
that is the
thing
most,
for
yes,
everyone.
yeah.
So
yes,
yeah.
food is it's a hedonic pleasure. We feel like eating, we see food and we eat food.
Yeah.
We're not hungry, but we eat the food.
And I'm sure in this 10 years of your journey, you would have seen people coming to you and telling that I eat less, but I still gain weight like anything. So I always think,
Yes.
is it because that person's metabolism level or the counts are on the lesser side? Is that
Yeah, so
one
firstly,
of the
Kena,
reasons?
thanks for making me feel so young. Saying 10 years of practice makes me feel really good after 25 years. So, and then secondly, of course, we always have that friend or
Yeah.
the family member who eats everything and never gains weight.
What's the
And boy,
reason?
do we hate him or her, right? Because
Yeah.
my God, why is I have to watch everything I eat and I have to run every morning or go to the gym?
Yes.
And so there are people who are fast metabolizers, so they have a fantastic metabolism. It has to do with many things. It could just be that maybe in childhood or early years of life, they were always very active and they built a higher muscle mass. And something we call as brown fat, which is more active,
Acha,
versus white fat or yellow fat, which is not as active and just stores the fat. So there are many various reasons that are different in people. For example, what determines our metabolism is many things. Number one is the amount of muscle you have, the amount of fat you have in your body. And therefore, in our practice also, when we work with people who need to lose weight, we try to focus on fat loss and muscle gain. That's very important.
Okay, so when we are talking about muscle and fat, so is it like, so there is this BMI, right?
Correct, yes.
Yeah. So is it valid to measure obesity?
So unfortunately, worldwide right now, all the classifications or how you classify or call someone overweight versus not is based on this very loose number called BMI, which is body mass index, which is just a ratio calculated from your height and weight.
Right.
We are hoping that in the future that will go away, especially in India. For example, what is now very well described is Indians are called as thin fat. So we are
fat,
thin,
okay.
but we are fat. So if you use BMI as a number, your BMI will be below 23 or below 25.
Okay.
So you're not fat by
You're not
BMI.
fat. Okay.
But when we measure fat, the fat percentage is more than 30%, 35%.
That means you're fat. You fall under the category
Then you
of
fall
fat.
into the category by fat is your you have more fat tissue. So therefore, especially in Indians, we need to use other measures such as maybe waist circumference. There's something known as waist height ratio. And if you can, wherever possible, the body fat composition.
What is that? Can you please explain in detail?
So waist circumference. So when we measure our central part of the body, that is
navel
where,
part?
yeah, the navel. So that is where we kind of store most of our fat, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that is
Belly
the fat
pouch is
around
what
your
is
belly.
most common around
So belly pouch, what we
females,
loosely
right?
know as, is actually reflective of visceral fat or fat that is in your organs, in and around your tissues, in your liver. And this is the fat that leads to disease in the future, such as diabetes, cholesterol, heart attacks, fatty liver.
How can you prevent these diseases?
So easy. So don't let the fat accumulate in these organs.
So you need
right?
to exercise.
You need to exercise, follow a
Roughly
lean, healthy
active,
diet.
sleep.
Absolutely.
Even is it possible that sleep deprivation or kind of stress can also lead to overeating and lead to at the end obesity?
Absolutely. So you asked me at the very beginning as to why do we gain the weight?
Yeah.
So I really focused on that diet and exercise is
very
important.
important.
But you could put it all together as lifestyle.
Yeah.
So if someone asks me how do you prevent all these diseases, they're all lifestyle diseases and we need to change our lifestyle. What is a diet today should become a lifestyle choice, which would include everything, stress reduction,
Right.
not just going to the gym, but also some yoga, meditation for doing that. Sleeping 7 to 8 hours will reset your hormones. Nowadays, we believe in circadian eating or chrononutrition, eat around the clock and develop your own biological clock. So all of this, yes, not simply diet and exercise, but changing your lifestyles, cigarette smoking, alcohol.
Yeah,
all
because
of that
this is also
contributes.
very important except exercise and gymming, because I've seen people around me who are really gaining weight, but they have some physical limitations because of certain reasons, right? So they can't walk for more than 15 minutes per se, or can't do weightlifting or go to gym. So these are remedies I think would be really helpful to the the people who have such
Absolutely.
physical limitations and still, can reduce such obesity problem. So I have this question which I feel that most of the people in the world would be having it. So is genetics something that you are born with?
So yes, genetics is something. Definitely your genes do impact how you're going to turn out in life, because they say you're going to be like your mom and dad, or maybe your grandparents or something. But I guess the burning question is if everybody in my family is obese, am I going to become obese?
Yeah.
If everybody in my family has diabetes, will I get diabetes? So I kind of think I mentioned in the beginning that you can't change your parents, but you can change who you are.
Yeah.
So certainly we know from several studies of twins, we know from several studies of families that if your parents have diabetes, you can get diabetes, almost 30 to 40% chance. Same for heart disease, kidney disease, eye disease.
And there's
heart
nothing you
attacks.
can prevent except having a good lifestyle, right?
So lifestyle changes will help the most, and but you need to start early and you need to sustain them. It doesn't mean lifestyle change for 3 months. It's not a 3-month diet.
It's a process.
When our clients come to us, we always tell them, yes, you may lose your 10% body weight in 3 months, but what you do now has to translate into a lifestyle choice later if you want to sustain those changes.
Yeah.
So yes, genetics certainly determines what we do, but we have a good chance if we want to reverse those changes also. So.
Oh, that's great. And is belly fat more of a concern, or overall body fat is a more concerned thing?
So yes, just like we spoke about that, belly fat kind of can indicate what you have known as visceral fat.
Okay.
That is the fat around your organs. So certainly that's the one that we are more concerned about, because that leads to diseases.
Okay.
Now the other part of the total body fat is the subcutaneous fat, so fat below the skin.
Yeah.
Very often that can be protective. For example, in women, they have more total body fat percentage because they are by design, they have breasts and buttocks, and that is supposed to be a protective feature.
Right.
Some people have different body types, like an android or a gynecoid, so they may have a little bit more body fat. But as long as we can keep it at a certain healthy level and keep the visceral fat down, we should be safe. Yes.
Oh, and is that the reason why female post 40 or 50, it becomes very difficult for them to, reduce weight? Or
Yes.
not only female, I feel it's there in both the genders.
So I'm glad you pointed it out. So yes, women do get menopause or perimenopause right after the age of 40, and that's when the hormones start going away. So you don't have estrogen, progesterone, and therefore it makes it difficult. Your metabolism will go down. So studies have now shown that at this age is when you start putting on more fat, and especially accumulating central fat.
Yeah.
So it becomes even more important to include strength training in your protocol. So not just paying attention to your diet, but making sure you're doing resistance training, good weight training. It could be in different forms such as Pilates, Zumba, gym training, whatever you like. But some form of resistance training is very, very important. So yes, that is key. And in men also, as they age, we start seeing, as you mentioned rightly, that they also start building up belly fat.
Yeah, that's
Even
the most
though they
common
have
is
their
what I
hormones,
see.
yes, in the Indian phenotype again,
Yes.
So therefore, they also need to be making sure they are doing, along with a good diet, good exercise program as well. Yes.
Okay, so when it comes to obesity, right, is there any, except BMI, is there any test or anything that should be done in order to just check that, early, precautions are better than cure?
Of course, yes. So whenever we start thinking about obesity, first of all, knowing the BMI cutoffs helps, because at least that will make you alert.
A start.
I need to do something. For example, in men and women, for Indians, the BMI less than 23 is normal.
Less than 23.
23.
Yeah.
Okay, kilograms per meter square. And then 25 and above is considered obesity. And between 23 and 25 is where you need to do something. It's called overweight. Now, when we start seeing these numbers, at least it could alert you. Nowadays, those body composition machines, it looks like a weighing scale where you stand on it and you hold the handles with your hand. And some electrical currents will go through your body and you get a nice printout which gives you your body fat, your muscle mass, your bone mass. So that will help you to guide you further if there is body fat or not. Now, if you have any other symptoms, if you're gaining weight very quickly or you're doing everything and you're not losing weight, that's the time when we also do some laboratory testing. For example, we'll look at your hemoglobin, your vitamins, your iron stores. We should always check for thyroid if there is family history. It's one of the most common diseases that leads to weight gain. Only in very advanced cases do we need to do something else, such as look for other things like diabetes. Because of weight, you can get diabetes. So
Diabetes, yeah.
complications, cholesterol. Sometimes we look for high insulin levels, which is known as insulin resistance. So yes, very often we will do all these things also as needed. But you should certainly go and see a doctor to get guided for this, and especially maybe a specialist in this. So pediatric medicine is becoming a specialty now. So
Okay, so in order to reduce, if I like you very nicely mentioned that if you are still gaining weight, can be all of these reasons. But the other way, is it like in order to reduce weight or to just fat burn karna hai? So what do you think? Are there any injections that is there in the market, or is just a scam? We talked about Mounjaro, right, and Ozempic. So what's your say on that?
So I think it's important first. So this might be a little longer answer because we don't
Right.
want to give any preference to any one brand. I'll talk
Yeah.
about the generic ingredients. So there are hormones involved in weight gain. So when
Okay.
we start gaining weight, there are these hormones such as ghrelin, which are overworking and telling you to eat all the time. For example, in Gujarat, jab barish hoti hai to we eat dal vada.
Yeah.
Right? When we go to a movie theater, most of us eat popcorn. We
And
are not
cheese
hungry.
popcorn, yeah.
And cheese popcorn.
Yeah.
Even though we are not hungry. So that's your hunger hormone driving you.
Right.
There is this other nice guy called GLP-1 who's telling you don't eat, mat khao, magar uski koi sunta nahi hai. So these hormones have been now developed as oral tablets as well as injections for weight loss.
Okay.
And they were originally actually developed for the treatment of diabetes.
Yeah.
And when they were being given to clients or in studies to treat diabetes and drop the sugars, what was observed was that their weight also went down. And then, of course, they were now further studied and developed as molecules for weight loss. So certainly these molecules also have a role, and they are very important and out there, because nowadays we are seeing clients with lots of weight gain, such as high BMIs, more than 40, what we call as morbidly obese. Also, very often they have diseases along with the weight causing diabetes, sleep apnea, which is not getting better. Then they are candidates for these molecules. So it's not for everybody, but it's not a scam at all. These are medications.
Right.
Obesity is
This
also looked
reduces
upon.
your appetite, which leads to less obesity.
So that is
what I
one of the
understand.
mechanisms by which they work.
Okay.
But they also have multiple mechanisms at the level of the liver, at the level of the fat cells, at the level of the heart. So some of these molecules have been shown to improve even heart function. And in fact, as per our medical guidelines, if, for example, say there's a diabetic patient who suffered from a heart attack, it is almost important that the doctor, the treating physician, should know that these molecules are not just for diabetes, they will also prevent a future heart attack. So
Yeah.
they have other benefits beyond weight loss.
Okay.
So it's not just for weight loss, but we know there are other benefits. For example, for fatty livers, we have one of the newer molecules, tirzepatide, which you mentioned as Mounjaro, is now approved in the United States for sleep apnea.
Yeah.
Which is a big problem seen with weight. So therefore, I feel they have a place.
Yeah.
You have to understand how to use them. We always hear on the social media them being touted as, oh, this needle causes muscle loss, causes this. But I think that's a very loose statement. It's based on no science, no evidence.
Right.
So I don't think that people should just talk about them as very loosely without understanding the science and physiology underlying, because they are very complex hormones.
Okay. When it comes to obesity, as we are discussing about that, right? So does skipping breakfast, because breakfast is considered the king of all the meals. So does that lead to, is it harming, or is it actually serving the purpose?
So, fasting is a concept that is age old as Indians, we all
Yeah.
know.
Doesn't
that
it affect the metabolism?
So it depends on how you're doing fast. So of Jains, the Jain community in Gujarat where we are from, they used to fast for days on end.
Yeah.
And now we know that based on science, that if you do a 7 to 8 day fast, you could reverse diabetes.
Yeah.
Now, where is that coming from? The minute you start fasting, we all have a lot of glucose stored in our body, and more importantly, we have a lot of fat. So our body will use that, and these stores can go for days on end depending on how much your body weight is. Now, your first question, however, was that is skipping breakfast okay?
Yeah.
So, back in the day, we used to say breakfast is the most important meal of the day. But with the newer concept of intermittent fasting, wherein
Yeah.
people will sometimes eat only for 8 hours, 10 hours, everything seems to fly. And we have studies that have shown everything works. As long as it's not causing you stress, it suits your lifestyle, you're getting all the right nutrition, you're not, deficient on any vitamins or protein or something in that sort. As long as you're on a good diet, that's fine. If you're skipping breakfast also,
Then why is
if
it
you're skipping dinner.
recommended by doctors or people, that you should eat meals after every 2 hours or 3 hours?
So again, that suits how it works for you. There is no such guideline
There's no such
that
guideline,
says
yeah.
that you eat every 2 hours.
So this is what is recommended, I feel.
So
is
it's
what
an
I've
age-old
heard.
technique, but that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that it necessarily works for everyone. For example, if you're working, you may not eat for 4 hours,
Right.
but you're not going to break your work to eat for 2 hours, especially if you're not hungry. And that's probably when we started gaining weight, if we keep on eating calorie dense foods in between, especially. So I think you have to stay in the right kind of proportion of your calories, eat the right kind of healthy foods, make sure you're getting your protein, your
Yeah, because that's very
nuts,
important,
everything.
yeah.
Yes, yes. Uh-huh.
Right.
So I think
rather than skipping the breakfast, I always feel that I'll have a proper breakfast and might go light on maybe the dinners or maybe
that
the
would probably be
afternoon.
the best way to go. That's
Yeah.
what we feel, because towards the end of the day you're slowing down, so you're not going to exercise.
Yeah.
So you don't need to put in too much food in your system. But through the day you are active. So if you eat, you can kind of make sure you're using it through the day, as we like to say. So yes, that'll be the ideal way to go.
Yeah.
But with everyone working on
It's
different,
different,
it does may
yeah.
not work for everyone.
Everyone,
Yes.
definitely. And juices, I love juices,
Ah.
right? I just love juices. So sometimes I feel that it is, though we don't add sugar, right? It's not the added sugar, but it's inbuilt, the sugar जो भी आता है अंदर juice में वो. So do you think it harms the body, or that can lead to diabetes in future?
So as we've been discussing about diet quite a lot, so
Yeah.
fruits which are thought of as very friendly and very harmless foods, remember they also have calories and they also have sugar. And
Right.
when you juice a fruit, you actually concentrate that sugar 10 times. So now you are only getting, most of the fructose is filtered out. Lot of the fiber, which is the good part of the fruit,
It's
is
been
filtered.
discarded.
Yes.
Acha.
So you lost that. So the fiber in the fruit helps to cut the sugar.
Okay.
The minute you start juicing it, now you get the sugar only, which is going to spike your sugar, spike
So
your
that's
insulin.
why it is recommended that instead of
Eat a whole
juice,
fruit,
eat
yes.
a whole fruit. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So moving on to PCOS, right? I have
Yes.
seen lots of people every second, every woman you meet, you will see that she's been diagnosed with PCOS. So what's the real reason behind this?
So again, PCOS, or what we call polycystic ovarian syndrome, as the name suggests, it's a hormone disorder. It's the most common hormone disorder in young girls.
Okay.
So we like to say in the reproductive age, because it happens from when you start your menses all the way till you lose your menses. So it can happen at any point in time. Now, interestingly, that's also linked to weight gain.
Weight gain.
Of course, it can also be genetic. For example, if your mother had PCOS, you can have it. But that also boils down the pathway of what we now call insulin resistance. So when you gain weight, I know I sort of feel like we are doing a PhD today on obesity, that when you put on weight, it not only goes in, I spoke about the liver and
Yeah.
around your belly, it can also go into your reproductive organs. So it affects your ovarian function.
So how do you identify that I am suffering, or maybe this is the sign that I might be
Yeah.
detached
So
with
PCOS is very easy to diagnose, because girls will always present with the most common symptom that there is something wrong with their periods. So for example, either they've lost a period, they've not had a period for 2 months, 3 months. It's irregular, meaning once it comes in 30 days, the next time in 45 days, or it comes too soon,
Yeah.
or either they bleed for too many days, or the bleeding is too scanty for just few days.
Okay.
So that's the most common symptom. In fact, when you hear it, you can almost make a diagnosis of PCOS. It's a clinical diagnosis. You don't need any special testing.
Okay.
Number two, they can complain of certain things because they don't make enough female hormones. The underlying problem is that their ovaries don't work well.
Yes.
And so they don't make enough female hormones, but they make too much of the opposite hormone known as the male hormone testosterone.
Right.
And this male hormone can cause unwanted facial hair, acne. They can have loss of hair from their scalp.
Yeah.
Now, also the high insulin level causes a pigmentation on the back of their neck and their underarms. And this dark pigmentation is known as acanthosis. So, as you can see, everything is a clinical feature that they
Feature.
complain of. So it's very easy to pick up PCOS. Yes.
If I'm having a regular periods, then is it like I might have PCOS if I don't
Yeah.
have this feature?
Right. So it's possible that you might have one or not all of the features of PCOS.
Right.
So some women have normal periods, but they have what we call hirsutism, or the
Hirsutism,
acne, or
yes.
the unwanted hair and everything. And then we have to check the blood tests.
Yeah.
Or we might sometimes also do a sonography to look at the ovaries to see if there are multiple cysts on their ovaries. So this will then guide us collectively. There are several different criteria, and we use the Rotterdam criteria most commonly, which gives you have 2 out of 3 features, also makes a diagnosis of PCOS.
Okay.
And that the reason to do this is it's important. It guides us what we should be treating. If her periods are regular, maybe she's come to you, the patient, for treatment of the other symptoms. So we will treat that accordingly based on the blood parameters and everything. PCOS is considered now a pre-diabetic condition. And very often these women have diabetes during pregnancy,
Yeah,
which then
I
becomes
had
pregnancy
this
later on, diabetes later on in life, even after pregnancy. So it's
So
important.
PCOS can lead to infertility.
Yes,
Yeah, and can have problems during pregnancy. Right?
correct, yes.
What kind of foods to have when it comes to PCOS when somebody is working on
Right, so that's very, very key, is because your ovaries need good fats. So we make sure that you're having, almonds, walnuts, pistachios. Sometimes if you can't afford that, even good quality of oil is fine, like olive oil, kachi dhani no tel in India, people can access that much easily. Having your greens and everything, of course, is important, but more important is to focus on trying to lose 5 to 10% body weight, which
Okay.
is not very difficult, because if you're, say for example, 60 or 65 kgs, that's only 3 to 5 kilograms. 5% is only 3 kilograms, which is achievable in 3 months. And a simple weight loss like this can help to improve your ovarian health.
Right.
Always focusing on protein is key, and protein can be in our Indian diet, for example, dals, pulses, dairy products, paneer. Of course, very often for PCOS, we try to, sometimes there's a newer school of thought to stay away from dairy.
Yeah.
But so far it's not been proven. So it's as long as you can, make sure you're getting your good balanced meals with good protein and focus on good fats. It's important for your ovarian health.
Right.
And not just in females, this is important in men as well. So good fats are important because they form the backbone of the sex hormone. So that is why it's very important not to cut out the fat completely.
Yeah. Okay, so what are your thoughts about thyroid? Why do people, what are the symptoms, first of all? How do they get diagnosed that I am having this problem?
So, I think thyroid, as you already know, is one of the most common diseases, and we've all known about it.
Yeah.
People know little about it, little more, less, or something. And the symptoms can be very general, that you feel tired, you don't feel good.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult sometimes. You could miss thyroid. The good news is that the thyroid blood test is a very specific test.
Okay.
So if you feel any such symptoms, weight gain, constipation, not feeling good, low energy levels, ask your doctors to check your thyroid test, which is a blood test which includes at least a TSH, which is your thyroid stimulating hormone, and sometimes more advanced testing such as a T3, T4, and occasionally thyroid antibodies. And that should reveal your thyroid status.
Okay, so how often, if I am having a thyroid, then how often should I check my TSH and T3 and T4?
So if you're someone who is on thyroid hormone therapy and your levels are stable, then you need to get it just done once or twice a year. But if you're someone whose levels are not getting corrected, or you're not reaching the desired target level for TSH,
Right.
then we may do it more often, like for example, after 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months,
Okay.
but no sooner than a month.
Okay.
Because the thyroid hormone levels generally take about 4 weeks to stabilize. So at least usually after a month's time. On the other hand, if you have an overactive thyroid, then very often we have to check it much sooner, in every 2 weeks' time, because that's when your body is making too much thyroid hormone,
Yeah.
and that changes very quickly. So there are 2 kinds of thyroid diseases, the overactive and the underactive. Hyper and hypothyroidism.
Hypo, yeah.
So it's a little different for both. Yes.
So can hypo be reversed by any case?
So can hypothyroidism be reversed? And that's a question we get often. And that really depends on, if you're born without a thyroid, of course not. If you have what is more common, the Hashimoto's thyroiditis,
Right.
antibody associated, we can try to kind of keep your levels stable for a while.
Okay.
But It's not always possible. If you're on full thyroid hormone replacement, we may not be able to replace it. If you're on a small amount, then maybe with the right kind of vitamin supplementation, iron supplementation, maintaining your diet, you could keep it stable for a long time. But reversal is not possible in majority of the cases.
No, thank you so much for your time. It was a very valuable session that we had today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.